So Chris is the global retail strategy and sales for Oracle Retail. In the middle, we have smiling Jack Philbin from Vive Mobile Marketing Company. And then on the end, we have Nathan Hilt, who's Director of Financial Services from PricewaterhouseCoopers. So thank you, gentlemen. So Jack, I think I'd like to start with you. If you could just give us a brief wallet evolution to bring everybody up to speed, particularly me.
Sure. Well, I'll give you my version, and then we'll let Nathan give you the
Everybody gets a turn here.
payments version. In case some of you weren't in the session I had earlier, I really focus on the non-payment side of Wallet. So helping brands put their loyalty cards and offers or tickets or stored value cards or gift cards into the wallet and making sure consumers engage with those. The short history, which is turning into a long history to your point, is that Apple announced Passbook in October of 2012. It was a side track small conference room at WWDC, and we had some people in the room, thankfully, and they came back and told me about it, and I said, let's go. So we got the APIs, and we had, from October, in a month or two, we had some tests going with Sears and Bloomingdale's, and we launched them in Q1 of 2013. Right, so that's 5 years ago that that some brands have literally been at, having these objects or passes in the wallet. That's a long time. I've lived through a couple of these iterations. I remember back in the day when going to visit Verizon and telling them SMS was going to be huge, and they were like, no one is going to hit the to button 3 times to get to the letter C just to send a message to their friend. Like, get out of here, kid. And of course, now there's trillions of messages. So I believe we're still way early in the wallet adoption field, and I'm supported by Google and Apple spending a boatload of money.
They are.
To try and make sure this happens, and I think that will happen. So quickly, sorry. So Apple launched Passbook. They didn't launch Apple Pay for a couple of years. Google kind of came at it differently. They had an existing product called Google Wallet, which is very different from what it is. Well, now it's called Google Pay, but they wanted to sort of rid the baggage of what Google Wallet was, so they changed to Android Pay, which I think caused a lot of confusion, set them back, and now they recently, in the last year, switched back to Google Pay. It's essentially Google Wallet with the Google Pay functionality, just like Apple has an Apple Wallet, and you can pay with the things that are in your Apple Wallet.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. Chris, what do you think about that? What's your take?
Well, the part of Oracle that I come from is specifically focused at retailers. So you've probably heard of our company. We have about 6,000 global retailers who utilize our applications to run their business every day. And my specific responsibility at Oracle is in what we call omni-channel. So it's everything having to do with customer engagement and associate engagement. And so I visit, some of the big retailers on almost a weekly basis, and the whole thing that they're talking about is personalization and stickiness of relationship. And what they're trying to achieve is, nirvana, which is loyalty. And a bunch of people mentioned loyalty this morning and saying, well, and I think you mentioned it, Jack, where not everyone needs the Banana Republic app, but in a lot of cases you do. I mean, we talked about Dunkin' Donuts, we talked about Starbucks, and those are hospitality-oriented customers, but people are strangely loyal to both of them, insanely loyal to Starbucks, right? So what the retailers are trying to do is to get that same level of loyalty. And apps are important, but payment is as important. So the thought is with the app's behavior needs to have one set of functionality outside the store, and then another set of functionality as you get closer and inside the store. So that's where we see a lot of people making investments, is having that immersive experience in the digital realm, but while you're in the physical store. And the natural reward for that stickiness and that loyalty is the transaction, right? Which is the payment. So it's all that work that you have to do to establish the fact that you're going to have a good, immersive, positive experience with the customer that's going to replicate time and time again and result in more transactions. So ultimately, it's about payment, but to get to payment takes a lot of work.
Nathan, with your customers, what do you see?
I actually was thinking about how to start this, and I was going to ask a question. In the audience, have anyone been to China recently? Did you try to pay for anything in China? What did you use?
I went to the airport and had to run into the ATM because I did not have a WeChat
Correct.
and they did not take that initiative.
Correct. So,
Scary moment living in without my luggage, my passport, and running to an ATM.
yeah. So I was there 2 weeks ago helping a client, actually a crypto client, and it's a whole other story. But as we were there, we tried to download WeChat here. I'm assuming not very many people do that. It's not easy. As a U.S. person, that I'm like this sanctioned AML, no KYC, etc. I had to get another person to authenticate me to be able to load WeChat. And then they don't allow you to put a US card credential onto their wallets. So we're sitting in Shanghai and we had a break in the evening and I'm gonna go out and I'm like, for the first time in, I don't know, 10 years, I actually am thinking about going to an ATM. Like, I don't even know where an ATM is in Shanghai. Are they gonna take my card? Because as soon as I left the hotel, I realized I could not actually pay for something because every merchant is taking WeChat Pay or Alipay, period. So it was a strange paradigm that in the US, we're on this journey, whether it's fast or slow, omni-channel or otherwise, and in 5 years, China has leapfrogged us. It is another universe. And so I guess the thing around when I talk to clients, it's why does China work? And China works because they did not start with payments. They started with a social platform, they moved to payments, and now they're moving to financial services. And so when we advise clients, it's stop thinking about payments. I think we're saying this in the same manner. You have to get to payments, but if you don't have a way to keep the person occupied or doing something before, after the transaction, etc., it's not going to get sticky. And so because they started in China with social, it's everywhere. Every single person is interacting with us, and it's made the jump within 5 years. Like you said, Apple Pay is almost that
5 years,
old,
yeah.
and these are hundreds of millions of people have adopted this, and it's all the merchants. It's not the main merchants. It's the little vendors that you're buying, the street fare from. They all accept this. So I guess, what I'm seeing is that the U.S. is behind, and it's behind because of the model that's being used, and it has to go back to developing a social, some sort of stickiness, then payments will take place, and then finally we'll get to something else.
Well, in the US, since we're here, what motivates customer usage or consumer usage? Jack, why don't you take that one?
I think that's easy. It's just for coupons, it's discounts and easy access to them. Ultimately, I think it's just convenience.
Yeah.
It's all about points, all about rewards then?
Yeah, it's amazing. You look at some of the people that do it very well in hospitality. I look at Panera, right? Panera, they sell bread, right? They sell bagels. And they had a really successful loyalty launch, and just watching people walk up, and they have surprise and delight loyalty, which means you walk up and you get a free bagel. I've never seen people do the happy dance getting a free bagel in my life before, but I did there. And guess how much it costs to make that bagel? Probably not that much. But that creates the stickiness, that creates the loyalty, and it's about you wanting to come back and just hope that you'll get that bagel again after the next 10 trips that get you coming back. So, and another thing that Jack mentioned a little earlier today is this whole idea of conversational commerce, right? It's the fact that I can do a chat with someone over Messenger, and I feel like I'm talking to an individual. And when I look at Amazon, I look at just a horrible looking website, right? But I've been programmed to go in there and buy from it. But in the world of retail, and what I try to tell my retail customers is, you have a 100-year head start on Amazon and stores. Use it. You have a one-on-one relationship with the customer. Use it. And that's where conversational commerce kind of bridges both, right?
That's right. They're all playing defense right now, and they could be playing offense.
Yeah. I mean, they have a lot going for them, and I think they just need to take advantage of it more and more, because that one-on-one relationship shouldn't be underestimated.
So with the big guys, with Apple and Google, what do you think, and Samsung Pay, what do you think the holdup is, besides me in using wallets? I hear all the time, everybody gets it, they do a couple of transactions, and it falls off.
I mean, I'll start.
take that?
I'm sure we'll have an opinion. I've not been a consultant for very long, but I've lived in payments my entire career. And the reality is, payments is hard because not one entity controls the whole experience. That's just reality. And, you started to see that on the diagrams and, payments at the macro level. But even at the consumer level, right, you have an association with whoever gave you the credential that's stored in the wallet or sits on a piece of plastic. You have a relationship with the merchant that's giving you the good or service, whether that be in the physical or the digital domain, and then you have all these intermediaries in between that offer you loyalty, points, etc. And so because you don't control the whole experience, even for the tech companies, because a lot of why they, especially Google, built Google Pay the way it is, it's for in-app purchases. It's stuff that you're going to buy at Google. It's because they realize, and this I think is where a lot of these companies are going, is that if I can control the experience, then I can increase adoption. And controlling that experience means doing things on platform. So you talk about an Airbnb and Uber, etc. They all control the experience because it's on their platform, right? So that's the key to usage. And I think the tech players are realizing this. All the big retailers are realizing if I can build a platform where I control more of the interaction, then I get increased adoption.
Yeah, I mean,
Want to add to that?
I'll add to that and just echo some of your thoughts earlier about social. But before that, I think this is macro. Apple and Google are focusing on supply instead of trying to create demand, right? There's two ways you can sort of run at a market, and they want everybody to have acceptance so that when consumers show up, they can actually transact. They either need to do opposite to drive the demand for acceptance, or do both at the same time. But they're not doing a lot of what we do, and there's not a lot of companies doing what we do, right? So we're not going to solve this on our own. We need Oracle to step up and play the big game.
Some of it's our responsibility, and one of the things I think that retailers don't do a good job of is educating their customers and educating their associates to make that a frictionless experience at checkout. Right? Because, and someone mentioned it earlier this morning in one of the presentations, that if you stumble and you click it too many times and it doesn't work, you go back to the plastic, or you reach in and you pull money out of your wallet. Sure. It's got to be easy. I mean, you have to be at a place where you're confident in doing that. So, when I start to think about technology adoption, I look no further than my 12-year-old son. And observe his behaviors, and I show him some of the tech that we have at Oracle, and he's like, that's too many steps, that's crazy, what are you doing? So from a usability standpoint, your best judge will be children.
Yeah.
And even over and above that, I look at how he communicates with the internet, and just the fact that he has conversations with Google Home. It's a little frightening, but literally, tell me a joke, Google, right? And when he's asking questions, he stopped asking mom and dad for homework questions because he goes to Google Home and gets a more accurate answer a lot faster than asking us. So, and when I think about the future of the point of sale system, I'm thinking that it's all going to be voice enabled at some point. And it's going to be, the customer will guide the transaction as opposed to any system built by Oracle.
Yeah, just to hit on the associates, it is everybody's responsibility. Because I'm obviously highly attuned to this, and sometimes I'm shopping, I'm like, you got Apple Pay, and some associates won't let me try. They'll be like, there's always issues with that, and so they prevent it, right?
They do.
And but then you have Starbucks, where 30% of all transactions in North America are from a phone, right? And so clearly the model works when executed well, and China is the ultimate proof point, as you're laying out.
Yes, and I think the other piece, when we advise clients, it's not, implement a mobile solution. It's not implement omni-channel. It's build a digital transformation, because it's all of these touch points. And with payments, we all get nervous because you want that good or service. And with a mobile device, your attention span's like 2 seconds. So if it does not work immediately, you're going to move to something different. So if that whole digital transformation is not put in place, everyone, 12-year-olds or otherwise, our attention span is really, really low, and we have no tolerance for for indecision. This doesn't work. I'm not comfortable. I just want to get out of here. So that whole digital transformation has to be put in place with all the participants. Otherwise, there's just a very steep drop off.
What seems like the front end of the merchant is the big stumbling block. What can Apple Pay or any other company incent them some way? Can they participate in a revenue model? What's going to drive that to get everybody up to speed to make them want to do that? You have thoughts on that, Chris?
Yeah, so it's interesting because when I talk to my retailers, I'm like, you guys, it's not just retail that's setting the bar. It's not your sector rival it's who you're competing with. It's people outside of your sector in retail, but it's hospitality, it's healthcare, it's entertainment. The bar is being set for customer engagement at those levels. And it's hard to live up to that because that's a lot of competition if you think about it. But when I'm advising them on what they should do next, it's start with your customer in mind. And we have this whole concept called the customer journey or the store associate journey, where you're trying to understand how I build this to optimize the relationships I have with my best customers and how I attract new customers. So when you start with customer in mind, you generally go to a point where you're trying to drive to their needs, and that's the best way to go without even thinking about application. But the whole concept of frictionless, I mean, when I went over to the Scotland and I watched a England soccer match in one of the pubs there, and I saw the contactless payment, pint after pint after pint after pint, I looked at that and said, oh my gosh, that is the future of retail, right? They saved a lot of money on receipts. No one's asking for a receipt during that match, but really, you just need to make it super frictionless when it comes to the actual transaction.
And the thing too is, I mean, I think the merchants that I've been out to, they are trying. They've been trying. I mean, they're trying. There's like a mobile division that either it's the mobile acceptance, so it's someone that's walking around, it's omni-channel, we're going to tie in what we do in the digital world into the physical world. They're working on it, but there's still a hesitancy. I mean, I just was out at a client, and this is a fintech of all fintechs that's talking about their experience, and they're asking like, should we take cash? And I was like, what? Why would you? You're building the future. Well, I wouldn't take cards. I wouldn't take cash. It's like, just take all digital, like make this a whole digital experience. And there was all this consternation. So I think, they're trying. It's a journey for them, but it's things that they're just used to, and it is new and it is expensive. That's another piece. A lot of the infrastructure is embedded. It's hard, even changing to EMV, right? You have all these retailers that were forced into accepting chip cards and replacing terminals. They're like, holy crap, we just finished this and now we're going to move digital and this is going to be a whole new transformation. So a lot of that is creating hesitancy because there is a fixed cost to it. And on the flip side, in China, not that I'm proposing we go to QR codes, but there's stickers on the windows. Like, it is the lowest cost acceptance ever. And it goes both directions. You can push money to them if they don't have it, or they'll pull it from your wallet. So again, all of this stuff in the US, because there's legacy, there's complications of, is it credit or debit? What network is it with a PIN? It's just super simple over there, and it takes seconds.
I'll disagree a little bit because I think a lot of the big retailers, and you can validate or not, a lot of the big retailers, I think, overestimate, like they're intimidated by how big a project it is, right? All the EMV upgrades, they're all NFC capable, and they can all be turned on. And when I have the conversations, they're like, oh, got to get IT involved. We're not doing that until 2020. And it's like, it's not that difficult. You got to be able to react. And I think EMV sort of forced everybody to be able to get there a heck of a lot faster.
Yeah, and I'll help out a little with that because point of sale implementations aren't easy. And especially when they're global in nature and you have payment to be dealt with in every country in the world, it's very, very difficult. And the good news with what we're doing at Oracle is we're pushing a lot of what is required to happen in the store to the cloud. And when you push it up to the cloud, it's quicker from an implementation standpoint when you're actually just tapping in to functionality that exists centralized, as opposed to taking a gold copy and circulating it throughout the world. A lot easier to do it, and we can do it out of the cloud than actually do it in an on-premise model. But the cost of implementation is coming down, the cost of upgrade and moving to newer technology is coming down, but still, you have to roll out that hardware, and that's a costly endeavor.
Chris, one more question, since you represent Oracle, and you're the keeper of all data. How do you measure the effectiveness of wallets with your customers?
Well, it's interesting in that we really feel like the concept of understanding the customer across digital means and in-store means is critical. And the whole concept of bringing that and commingling that in a database and being able to go through a thoughtful process of segmentation and make a determination of what persona that customer falls into and how you should proactively market and message to them is critically important. And we do a lot of generational behavior at Oracle. In fact, every year we do a global consumer survey where we interview about 16,000 people across 15 different countries and try to understand their shopping behaviors, not only across retail, but across any means. And what we're learning is the whole concept of digital is being adopted at, I think, a 60% rate from the data that we have, which I think is great news, right? And someone had pointed out this morning that baby boomers are actually adopting it, which is very true, as a matter of fact, from the data that we've seen. They don't adopt it as fast because it takes them a little longer than it takes the young kids. But ultimately, they're doing it at a rate that we're very comfortable with. And when I'm talking to retailers, they're really planning for the next generation, right? So they're concentrating on what's known as Generation Z, or the centennials, and they're like 18 to 24. And what they're saying is, digital payment will be a bigger part of their whole idea of doing business, not only from a retail but from a hospitality standpoint. So my thought is, understand your customer. The best way to do that is to be data driven, and to pull that out of a CRM and go through segmentation, and then to append that data with other data from third parties as well.
Do you guys have anything to?
Well, I'd say everything we do is performance-based. We kind of present to our retailers, we know you're in a challenged environment, and so everything that you do with us is going to be ROI positive, and we'll prove it to you. I mean, we're in startup mode, so we kind of have to play that way. And but it's great because everything is trackable, right? And so, for instance, if you have if you have 2 million offers out there and they expire in 10 days, you can and say 750,000 have been redeemed. You can segment the remaining 1.25 million and remind them, accessing the CRM, send that reminder in a segmented way that is meaningful to all those people. And you're not bothering the people that have already redeemed. So this is the personalization that you were referring to. It's one-to-one marketing, but that's all done and possible through, the wallet technology. So I'd say the advantage, I talked a lot earlier about how the results are fantastic. So we want to sort of advertise how great the results can be. So I think that the proof point it isn't in how do you prove it's successful, like hands down, saving people time, saving people money, making this whole experience easier and better. It works. It's telling the story and getting them to realize that it's an option.
Anything you want to add to that?
I agree with everything they've said. The only thing I would say is, there's so many things within payments and, redemption and transactions and volumes that you can track, so 100%. But it also is the consumer engagement, that back to the social aspect, if there is a way to measure that there's more interaction time, maybe not through the point of sale or the buying experience, but on the app or interacting with the loyalty application, whatever that looks like, that engagement increasing is a key metric to measure.
Okay. I think we're running short on time. Questions from the audience? Oh, we have 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Is there any questions from the
Plenty
audience?
of time.
Yes.
You, Well, my 2 cents of living in payments for my whole career is nothing ever dies in payments. So there's some legacy, something from whatever version. So even if there was a move towards QR code, everything else would still exist. That's just the U.S. market and I would say, the kind of first world payment markets. And I don't know, because NFC it wasn't mandated, but I mean, it's in all the terminals. It's there in your cards for the most part. It's in the phones, and it's still not turned on. It's not consistent. And there are other things in China that make like absolute rules more enforceable. So it's a little bit different environment as well. So the short answer is I don't think it would just add more here. The key thing is to get the engagement to whatever means the customer wants to interact with. If it is a QR code, then allow a QR code. If it's something else, great, enable that. And the other piece too on the China is that there will be more QR codes because of the students and the tourists that are coming in from China. So I don't know, I keep track of all this payment stuff, right? The mall, and I don't know if that's one of your clients, the Great Mall has ubiquity for Alipay in all of the malls. So I think those will be in sort of pop-ups where there are tourists or there are large populations of students, but it's not going to be where suddenly as a U.S. consumer, I'm going to jump on my WeChat Pay in the U.S. That probably is not going to happen.
Yes, sir, in the back.
Except QR. Nathan?
I don't know. That's a good question. It's not many. I don't know what the total percentage is. Yeah. And I do know that there have been a lot of startups that are QR code based. I mean, there's
Level Up.
His symbol is one of the. I live in the Bay Area. It's been around for like 8 or 9 years. It's just met a lot of headwinds, and some of the consortiums also thought to be QR code based as well, but they have not really gone anywhere.
By the way, we haven't mentioned Verifone and Ingenico as part of the problem in this discussion. Right? It's not all Apple and Google being behind it.
I alluded to it with the point of purchase.
Yeah.
Yes. But I mean, that's a good question. I'm not sure, but it's not a significant percentage.
Any other questions?
I think just one comment on I don't think the U.S. needs anything drastic, like a new model to kickstart anything. Like next time you're at a Whole Foods, just ask, hey, how many, pay with your phone, then ask how many people do this, and you'll be staggered by the probably inflated response by the cashier. But it's happening. They just need consumers need more places to have that experience, like a Walgreens and a Panera and Whole Foods, and those companies need to help make that faster.
And
as
I
well.
do, and I would say all the participants, so it is the terminal providers, it's the point of sale systems, etc. It also is the card networks. I mean, I load my debit card in my wallet, and usually I use a PIN, and I get to use it, and it's this clunky, I can't do it on my phone, it wants me to use the PIN pad. It's not a seamless experience, right? I should just have something that works consistently in 2 seconds or less. So, and then the rules are different, right? So, is that a card present, card not present? What's the interchange? It's all over the place, right? Again, the U.S. payment system is already complicated, so now, to your point, we don't need new, we just need what's there today to work a little bit better, and everyone has to kind of work together to do it.
Yeah. So sometimes there's competing agendas inside. So I'll give you a Starbucks example that's real and I think real interesting. So if you add a stored value card, so if you have the Starbucks Gold, rewards card, you can put that in your Apple Wallet or in Google Pay. Let's just use Apple for a second. You can put that in your Apple Wallet, and then you can say this is my favorite location. And so when you get to within 100 meters of that Starbucks that you go to every day, it will be on your lock screen like an appointment reminder, and you can walk in, swipe open, and pay with your stored value card. You're not finding an app and then going a few clicks deep in the app to flip over the barcode, right? So it saves you so much time. But even at Starbucks, pre-ordering via mobile, via the app is such a priority right now that they want everybody doing that. So we want to send everybody through the app. I don't care that that's more convenient and decreases line time. We want everybody ordering through the app. So there it's they have both experiences, but the people that know about the ability to put their stored value card in their wallet have a better experience unless they need the store finder. But if you don't need the store finder, you go in the same place every day, you get there, you swipe, you pay. That's actually more convenient than the app. But the app's getting all the marketing right now because pre-ordering is so important. So it's
Yeah.
just an example of like, both of those things are important, but they're choosing one right now.
So that's device behavior as you get closer to where the transaction is going to happen. And so the National Retail Federation show, which is our big show every year, is in New York in January. And so I stayed at a hotel that had Starbucks next door, and having to be there for a week plus, which is, you know, a lot of time to be in New York. You know, I got friendly with the manager, and the manager shared with me that during peak hours, upwards of 50 to 60% of the transactions are pickup transactions. And you're right, they're trying to orient the order online, pickup in store customer journey as the standard, especially in that area, because that gives predictability. Not only from how much I need to order based upon what was purchased in the past, but staffing as well. So all this stuff is contrived in order to get a result by the retailer.
Sure.
Great. Any other questions? Well, thank you for sharing this irreplaceable life segment with us. We hope it was valuable. Thanks.